This is a Sportsy Media production, part of Quiet Loud Studios, the podcast network where reflection meets amplification.
Welcome to NIL for You. I'm Rob Finkelstein. I'm the founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we created a platform for athletes to network and connect with their fellow alumni and tap into various resources in education and career areas, mental health, financial. But this show is all about, we have stories every week. We have great athletes and great companies talking about NIL. But the thing I'm always excited about is my co-host, Trent Clark. How you doing, Trent?
I'm awesome, Rob. Thanks for having me, buddy. Always a great time to get on the show, be with great people, talk a little NIL because I just absolutely love it and love the dynamics of it. So happy I am Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity and Athletes Influencer Marketing, AIM for NIL. And I am also a longtime coach in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And I am a professional speaker speaking all over the globe, 17 countries now. And my new book is out, Leading Winning Teams from Wiley Business. So super excited about that. Pick it up. It's on pre-sale. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. Check it out. But today is all about NIL for you. And with that, we got something special for you. We got Jack Betts. What's up, Jack Betts? Jack Betts is the guy from the Make Your Own Legacy Academy, Foundation. What do you call it? Academy.
Yes, sir.
The Academy, man. We're going to the Academy, man. He's created his own academy. I love this. Jack is a Division III football player from Amherst College up in Massachusetts. Texas boy, though. So we just got to get Texas football right because we're going to talk a little about Texas and NIL because it's going to get crazy. And then also, but you are an NIL guru, Jack. You created over 40 NIL deals. And as a Division III guy, you have basically broken the barrier on the narrative that, hey, a small school person or player can't get any NIL deals. So, Jack, I am so excited to have you today. We are fired up to get into this. Thanks so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. That's about as good of an intro as it can get. So I'm excited to be here and excited to get going.
Well, I'd love to wrap the show there. But listen, Jack, I'm excited about what you got to say, man. Like, you've been in this game and man, it started while you were in the game. So, in mid-college, because you're just a recent grad, in mid-college, all of a sudden this thing comes about. Not even an option probably for your first year or two. And then all of a sudden, hey, this switch turns on. I can make some extra money. Got some parents who are pretty smart, it turns out. And you're a Texas guy. And, athletics are king. There's a lot of sports. There's a lot of sponsorship around sports, even in high school, probably in junior high in Texas, for goodness sakes. And so it gets very serious very early in Texas if you haven't been down and seen sports there. So, Jack, tell us how you kind of got on it, how it really motivated you, and where that thing turned for you as a light bulb.
So my journey in NIL is everything but typical. I mean, as you said, Division III athlete, nobody really even thought about us when that legislation was approved in 2021, was it? Goodness gracious, almost 3 years. But I can tell you exactly where I was when that legislation was approved. I was on family vacation, Aspen, Colorado. My family goes every summer. We've got to get out of the Texas heat somehow. We need some sort of respite. And I was sitting at the dinner table. I think we had barbecue that night. And my phone starts blowing up. Bleacher Report, CBS News, all these news avenues covering this new thing. Name, image, and likeness has been approved for collegiate athletes across the country. And initially, I was pretty psyched up. I was pretty stoked. Just the thought of me being able to simply make money from being a student athlete, I think was something that would be attractive for anybody in my position. And I started texting my teammates. I started texting in our group chats. And I'm like, you guys even know, like, do you understand what this means? Like, we can basically make money for playing football. And I had all these brands in mind. And I started breaking down a bunch of things for my teammates. And they're like, Betsy, that's my college nickname. Don't make fun of me. They're like, Betsy, we got to face the facts. We're a Division III school in the middle of Western Massachusetts with 1 televised game per year. That's not a lie. The likelihood of any one of us getting a single NIL deal is slim to none. So I accepted my fate. I accepted the reality that Division III athletes are an afterthought. And for a while, I believed that narrative. I played into it. 6 months passed by, and it wasn't until January of 2022 where I actually embarked on a gap semester as a result of me coming to a difficult decision. On one hand, I could either go study abroad with a bunch of my teammates, be on track to graduate in spring of 2023. I would have only played 3 collegiate seasons of football because my sophomore year was canceled as a result of COVID. Or I could take a gap semester, which is what a lot of my teammates did in the spring of 2021. I didn't, just for some reason, I'm not entirely sure, but I decided to take a gap semester. And so that's when my NIL journey began. I had no formal academic, no formal athletic obligations. And so I'm sitting here actually at this desk in January of 2022, and I get a DM on Instagram from a company called Lifestyle Bands. And they basically are reaching out to me saying, hey, would you be interested in joining our NIL cohort of athletes? Keep in mind at the time, 2,000 followers, private Instagram account, 1 career reception, if you could believe it. And I'm like, what the heck? What the heck do they even want with me? How did they find me? But then it hit me. This was the in I was looking for into the NIL game. This was what I had been searching for. I'd been watching from the sideline, no pun intended, watching from the sideline all these millions of dollars pouring into these Division I athletes, and now here's the opportunity right in front of me for me to capitalize myself. And so that really, had it not been for that January incident, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today. And so that's what got me into NIL, and that's what I guess constructed what you see in front of you today.
Wow, lots to unpack right there, Betsy. It's like, first of all, like, I love the nickname. I think it's better than the Gambler, by the way.
We're keeping Betsy the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. Right. It's Betsy from here. And the other thing is a college athlete, Betsy. Well, maybe someone might consider soft as a football player because it's a traditional female name here in the States, right? It's way better than the Gambler, okay? Because when you got a name like Bets and you're a college athlete, you really don't want to be associated there. So I think it's pretty cool, your guys. It's one of the things I love about sports, right? We all have a nickname. It's crazy, and that's a good one. So while you're slumming it in Aspen, you got this concept of like, hey, this summer. Now, are you bouncing ideas off lawyer parents? Like, hey, what if I do some deals? Am I going to create my own LLC? What are you thinking from a business structure as things are starting to come down and like you're seeing, hey, I could get opportunity and there's going to be some exchange, and I don't know how much monetary and how many goods or services, but there's going to be an exchange. So what are you thinking along that lines?
As things started to heat up, I think if you fast forward to probably February or March, I'm probably sending off like 15-ish emails a day, and I'm beginning to close more and more. I mean, that was my main, I guess, strategy. Was just being proactive, going out and getting them. I had no agent, no representation, no collective at Amherst, certainly. So it was all about me going out and getting these things. And what came with that was sort of having to shoulder the responsibility of reviewing these contracts, making sure that I'm not putting myself in any, harm's way. And of course, having 2 lawyers as parents definitely helps with that, having built-in legal counsel. And so we had discussed the possibility of establishing an LLC, and that's sort of where MYOL comes in, but we'll get to that a little bit down the line. But it was sort of operating Jack Betts as the business entity, almost. I was the one closing these deals. I was the one putting my face on a billboard, if you will. I mean, obviously no literal billboard, but I'm posting all of these pieces of content, posting on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. And so I am running Jack Betts as the business. And that was the approach I had to take, as opposed to Jack Betts, the 100 reception, 1,000-yard, 10 touchdown a year guy. I had to approach it as Jack Betts as the entrepreneur. I had to sell to these companies why I'd be a fruitful addition to their marketing team as a Division III athlete, as an unproven individual on the field. So it was being sort of an entrepreneur, running my own business for 6 months. I do like to refer to NIL as an entrepreneurial incubator, because that's essentially what it is. I mean, those 6 months were extremely integral to my development, my professional skills development, my professional network development. And I really have nothing but positive things to say. So there were a lot of considerations regarding how do I officially establish and professionally establish myself as a business.
So how many deals did you get like in that time period versus once you started, back up playing again?
So the spring was definitely very successful. I think I officially hit the 30 deal mark right when the 1 year anniversary of NIL came around. So
Wow.
July 1st, 2022, by that time, I hit 30 deals. So
Wow. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Biggest deal, best deal, and smallest deal.
you guys are going to make me pick my favorite children. Come on now.
No. I just said identify biggest deal. I will
Biggest
say best deal, and I'll say best deal for you. Best deal for you that you thought like had the most impact for you, and then the smallest, most micro thing in the world that you've done as a deal.
I'd say best deal for me, and you guys are going to laugh. Best deal for me was probably Insomnia Cookies. I am an Insomnia Cookies athlete during my time as a student athlete in Amherst, one of the like most popping, I guess, stores in the town of Amherst was that Insomnia Cookies location that's dangerously located very close to my dorm that I lived in for 3 years. And so the Insomnia Cookies deal, I think that was my best deal simply because of the benefits I was able to reap. I got a $150 gift card at the beginning of each semester. So that was pretty nice. I was during my time at Amherst, I was an executive board member of the Council of Amherst College Student Athletes of Color Board, as I am of Cherokee descent, and so they were actually able to take care of catering for a lot of the events that we would have. And so it would definitely swindle. It would definitely encourage people to come because I'd be like, I have literally 50 Insomnia Cookies here for the taking. So not only was it a personal benefit, but it also benefited my teammates. It also benefited my fellow student athletes at Amherst. So I'd say that was probably one of my favorite and best.
Okay, stop right there. Let's cover Insomnia real quick because I've heard the brand. I just went by it the other day. I went by it the other day. I was running it like 11:30 at night the other day in Kansas City and saw one. I was like, "What the heck is that, man? Like,
Yep.
is it like cookies with Red Bull in it? What the heck is that? Like, I don't know. Is it just a late night cookie place?"
It's a late night cookie place.
Okay.
That perfectly describes it. They're open until like 4 or 5 in the morning. So regardless of the
Nice.
hour of the day, if you're fiending for cookies, you know where to go. And it definitely was the
Nice.
spot. Late night, Saturday nights into Sunday morning. It was a great spot to hit. And I'd be
And
just
have these established these right next to the pot shops? Is that what they're doing? Like they go and get, cannabis, and then you got like your
I don't know,
Insomnia cookies for the munchies?
Not entirely sure.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Massachusetts
so
is
did they
weird.
give you like a lifetime supply or at least through college?
I wish. Through college, it was pretty well established that I pretty much had unlimited access. I mean, I mentioned the $150
Card.
gift card at the beginning of each semester, which I still think some of them haven't been fully exhausted. But when I had a contact there, I believe her name was Colleen. I don't think she's there anymore. But every time we had an event coming up, every time we had like, for example, the Super Bowl, they like fully catered and fully decked out our Amherst football watch party. So they were extremely friendly. They were extremely helpful, I guess, to for some events, and I'm extremely grateful for that relationship because it really was a mutually beneficial relationship. Every time they'd help me out, I'd post a bunch of stuff, and I think they'd get a quite a good deal of business.
This is what I love, Rob. Like right here is that like it's a mutually beneficial business.
Yeah,
Like
Jesus,
yes,
said
they
that was
gave
great.
this young man some things, and yeah, he's out there pumping his social, talking about it and publicly. That's awesome. Uh, Kid's not terrible to look at. Way to go, Betsy. And like he's on his social, and so like this is good, right? And so all right, and they're going, wow, we got all this catering jobs because of Betsy's relationship with us. I mean, this is a win-win-win. Kids are getting great cookies. Like everybody's happy. The football team's happy. Places they're going into are always excited to see Insomnia. Insomnia's getting business. It sounds like they had a bit of a minimal, output of things for Jack to make sure that he got taken care of, and he seems happy. He's still got left room on the card, man. Like things are still good. I don't know. I don't know if he's got
Activate the card.
yeah. Well, we'll tell them just to refresh it every month or something. Like, listen,
Please.
can we get an automatic refresh because we just got you on NIL for you? Make sure we tag Insomnia Cookies. Something's coming in
Absolutely.
coming in hot.
Shout
All
out
right.
Insomnia.
So Shout out to Insomnia Cookies. All right, man. Which, by the way, I've never had one, and now I'm all fired
They're
up.
great.
Betsy's got
Yeah.
me like pretty
They're
pumped in, and
next college town you're in, you got to get them.
I got to get through 75 hard, man. No cheat days. After that, I will hit. I will hit a late. I'll hit a summer Insomnia Cookie somewhere. I'm gonna find it. So I will see it on the road here. All right, good. So let's talk about the biggest, most lucrative to you, Betsy. That was really most valued to you. Let's talk about that deal.
I would have to say it would be my partnership with Invesco QQQ.
Okay.
That one was major for me. Not only, I mean, there wasn't a lot of like tangibles going on, like they didn't really pay me anything, there wasn't any exchange. But I think simply the relationship and I'd say the exposure on social media was extremely helpful for me. And that deal actually came as a result of the NIL Summit 2023.
Yep. Yep.
I attended the NIL Summit as a student athlete delegate for Amherst College. I was a 2-time student athlete delegate during my time there. And this last year's was a very successful one, I'd say. In 2022, when I went to the inaugural NIL Summit, I left from the Atlanta airport. I was on the airplane. I told myself 2 things. Number one, when I return next year, and I will be returning next year, I'm going to be nominated for and I'm going to take home the 2023 Hustle Award. And number two, and you dig. And number two, I will be speaking on a panel.
Show that again. Show that again. Show that again.
Actually, the 2023 Hustle Award presented by Instagram. Shout out all my fellow nominees, Cameron Brank, Angel Reese. I'm sorry I had to take it from y'all, but it's all love. And number two, I'm going to be speaking on a panel which Invesco QQQ eventually invited me to. I spoke on Invesco QQQ's panel. It was like 5 money secrets for the NIL long game. I'm not entirely sure why that number was there because we talked about a lot of things, but I was the only student athlete on that panel. I spoke alongside some tax experts from TurboTax, a representative from Invesco, and finally Vivian Tu, who is like this financial influencer, a very impressive individual. But they basically followed me around the entire summit with a camera. They made this really cool, like mini documentary type thing during my time there. And my relationship with them is it's awesome. I had a great time with them, sitting down with them, not only talking about some ideas for my financial future, but just ways that we can incorporate a partnership moving forward. So given that my time as a student athlete is over, I think Invesco QQQ is one of those that I'll look back in the long run and kind of be like, that one is extremely important because they posted the video they created, they posted on their official Instagram account in collaboration with my following as well. So all the people who follow that account and all the people who follow my account, I mean, that's a lot of exposure. So the exposure and the takeaways from it, I think that was probably my most lucrative one, no doubt.
Great. Excellent. Love it. And by the way, a little shout out to the NIL Summit that is produced by Influencer Sponsor. They have a ton of sponsorships that are really good. They host that typically at the College Hall of Fame outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So annual event happens in June every year. Cool NIL shout out, which I'm sure will just grow in nature as this thing keeps going. But I think by the way, Angel Reese is okay. She got a national championship, and you got a nice Hustle Award. So that's good. So I think she's going to be okay. All right. She may be a little hurt, but I think she's going to be okay. So let's go into the micro deal, Jack. Let's talk about just the smallest one-off thing, just kind of out of left field. That's still a deal, but and maybe you got one item, a fishing lure. Shit, I don't know, man. Like, pardon me, like anything that you came up with.
I think the one that comes to mind is probably my partnership with Sprayground. Sprayground is a very popular, merchandise company. They've previously had partnerships with the NBA. I know they've done some stuff like All-Star Weekend type stuff, but that one really was a shot in the dark. I just sort of remember I got this really cool Sprayground like basketball. And I definitely got my money's worth. I got it for Christmas, like in 2017 or something. And I remember coming across it when I was rummaging in the backyard trying to clean some stuff up. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just like shoot a no look half court shot to Sprayground? Because they're awfully popular. And they hit me back. They're like, "What's your address? We're going to send you a backpack." And I had no further correspondence with them. They literally sent me a free backpack, which is around here somewhere. I think it's over there, but no, it is over there. But they sent me a backpack, and I had no further conversation with them. And it's a great backpack. It's really cool, but it was just like, here.
Just a backpack. Did they load it up with stuff like little gift goodie bag or just a backpack?
It had a couple stickers in it. I don't know if you count that as stuff.
Yeah, it's a goodie bag.
No,
Yeah.
it was literally just like a one-off. Like, here's a backpack. Thanks. I don't know.
Okay, let's take a minute here and talk. Rob, let's talk a little bit about alumni direct. We always talk about alumni. We talk about different colleges. We want to bring in the headlines real quick, Jack. Why don't you go get your backpack? Let's talk some a couple headlines in the news today, Rob, and then we're going to end with talking really about Jack's Academy. I really want to hear about the Betsy Academy.
Get these pulled up here.
Betsy, go get your backpack, man. We want to see it.
Oh, it's literally
Yeah.
my backpack. All right, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm telling you, go get your backpack. Let's give a little shout out to Sprayground.
Okay, let's talk about. We'll get started here. We're just getting that backpack there. So, Ohio State, Will Howard landed a new Bronco NIL deal. And that's not the same one. Was it? I forget the team now. Was one school that got like out in the west there?
Utah.
Okay. So basically, Will Howard transferred into Ohio State, and the NIL Foundation there gave him a new Bronco, basically to help them promote and more on the donation side. So give us some of your thoughts there, Trent. Here's this guy coming in. I guess that was his incentive to come in.
Okay, so first of all, Will Howard is a quarterback. Is that right?
Yes. He was a quarterback at Kansas State.
So he's a quarterback at Kansas State. He's going to make a jump to Ohio State. I mean, this is just the incentivize of how a team who's in need of a quarterback, who had a young quarterback, and he transferred out. I think he left for Syracuse, I believe, Rob. And so you have a void on a top, historically, like top 5 team, which is crazy, right? I mean, so I think there's probably a lot of kids that lined up for an opportunity to even get a nod from Ohio State to take an opportunity, who historically has had like just a massive amount of receivers that are available to any quarterback. You just absolutely have to get excited about what's offered at Ohio State from their legacy, the Ohio State, as we talk about the Make Your Own Legacy Academy, is a place that you just get great football, great sports. They've done this NIL thing better than most. They were, man, I want to think they were, years ahead of folks preparing for when this would go through. And I got to give a shout out to Ohio State. All sorts of people were talking about NIL and the possibility of this thing for a long time. Just like a lot of people are going out there, and farmers every year, they sow their fields and they're ready for rain. They prepare for it. Are you praying for rain? Or are you taking action and getting ready for rain? Because you probably ought to do both. And Ohio State prepared the fields. They were ready for NIL. And when that thing hit, they shot out of the gate, and in a 200-meter race, they had 50 meters on everybody in the first 60 meters. It was embarrassing to everybody else. And just a big shout out to Ohio State, because I think even almost as Betsy said, almost 3 years later now, I think people are still playing catch up. And a shout out to some schools that have really done a good job of playing catch up. But I still think Ohio State's a leader.
Yeah, definitely. And Jack, give us your thoughts. So, we're talking about how this quarterback transferred in. They gave him a Bronco, and it's it's from their foundation. So they're talking about doing some good in the market. Give us some of your ideas on this.
So unfortunately, I couldn't find the backpack. I think it might be in like a closet somewhere in my room.
Okay, we'll have to do without it, man.
Shout out to
we won't worry about that one.
But I don't know. In terms of this, I won't sound salty as a Division III athlete, because a partnership with some form of dealership was on my bucket list of potential deals and partnerships. It never got around to it simply because I didn't think I had the type of notoriety that would be required to even elicit a deal like that. But when I think about these kids transferring in and getting these massive signing bonuses, is what I characterize them as. I don't know. I like to say that we kind of do NIL the right way at the Division 3 level. I mean, there's no like, we're not ushering you to come here and you're getting this as a result. It's more of like you're putting in the hard work for yourself and you're getting it as a result. I have no problem with something like this, but I think we're just beginning to venture into really treacherous territory as we see more and more of these signing bonus type propositions, these signing bonus type transactions. I think that, I mean, when you look at Carson Beck, for example, who got like a Lamborghini, what was it, the Urus, the SUV. I mean, these guys are driving $400,000 cars and they're, 21, 22 years old. And I think most of them are pretty level headed, but you're going to have some folks who think they're street racers and sometimes it can end up bad. And where does where does the blame get placed? Like, is it the kid himself or is it the people who outfit him with a $400,000 sports car? I think it's dangerous territory. I don't know.
Yeah, I listen. I tend to agree with Betsy on this one. I get it. I get it. We're recruiting players, and I think shout out to all the auto manufacturers who are getting in the NIL space. They're getting great brand recognition. They're talked about good or bad. I was just recently speaking in Kansas City, and there's a pretty big deal right there. Here's one of their players who wrecks a Lambo on the highway, right? And it's a Ford car, and they walk
Dallas,
away from it.
in Dallas.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that in Dallas when they did that?
Yeah.
So yeah, here's a
street from me. It's right down the street from me.
oh, it is.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, what Betsy mentioned is a responsibility. We have a responsibility. We have laws. We have order. And when all of a sudden people are in this, and man, the temptation to run my Lambo out if I had one out to like 180 would be real. I mean, I'm looking for a test track because I know better than going out on a city street in my 50s with all my responsibilities, and I know better. But listen, man, this is a second major accident in the last couple years, including the one in Vegas from the Raiders football player just coming out of college. They're young players, they're hand a lot, and this thing has ended, somewhat tragically. This one, fortunately, no death was involved, which is great, but still, that doesn't alleviate the risk. It doesn't alleviate the threat, and man. It's a tough play, and I tend to also side with Betsy on the fact that where he was at in his NIL journey is, of course, 98% of college athletes. Like the 2% have a very different view of NIL, and the major media is talking all about the 2% NIL deals, and that's fine. I get it. I understand why, but the reality is what I'm kind of excited about with Betsy being here is this is the norm. This is where you're actually going to have to create value, create a contribution to an organization, be an adder, not just show up because you're handsome or you've got a big contract or any of this. You actually have to create value to continue to get opportunity. And as Betsy hustled and in the first 6 months achieving 30 opportunities, there becomes a flywheel effect, right? People are seeing that he's active, he's making things happen, so other brands are attracted to someone in that who's taking it very seriously, and other brands are offering not only testimonials to what Betsy's done for them, but also willingness to give their endorsement for him for other brands. So I just think the one thing that he hit on that kind of separates me from these two scenarios is he talked about the value of all the skill set he learned in 6-8 months where he put his head down and built a small business. And I don't know, and I got no knock against this young man, by the way, taking the Ford Bronco. I would have also taken it. I just don't know if he learned anything from it. I don't know if he gets any value from an increase in skill set. I don't think this young man's a better salesperson because someone gave him a Bronco and he transferred from K-State to the Ohio State. So I'm for him. I'm bullish on the fact that it's great these young kids who are starring on the field, making colleges millions of dollars, and certainly putting the sacrifice on the line, are getting rewarded for that. And I definitely want to talk, if you know this next headline, but I want to finish with Betsy on the EA Sports effect on college athletes too, with the games. Okay, so Rob, let's before we go to EA Sports, let's jump into the last headline there.
Well, actually, I'm gonna switch it up here, Trent, because I thought of something on the headline. Is so one thing, Jack, Betsy, that we that we like to do on this episode is or our podcast. We'd like to talk about NIL for good. So doing something good with that NIL money, charities, things like that. So of those deals that you had, were any of them related to that, like an NIL giving back?
Donation, nonprofit.
I wouldn't say any of the deals, but I would say the platform that I constructed itself was used to give back for good. In the Christmas season of 2022, I believe, the Make Your Own Legacy Academy, which I know we haven't gotten to quite yet, but my NIL education entity actually sponsored this Christmas giveaway event at Family Gateway, which is a local organization here in Texas, here in Dallas, actually. And we sponsored the teen gift section, which allowed mothers to bring in their children and have their kids basically go to town and select. We had so many toys. We had so many options for these kids to choose from. And so we did sponsor the teen gift section at the Family Gateway Christmas event in 2022. We've been looking for more ways to get involved. I think we might be sponsoring something at the Boys and Girls Club luncheon coming up soon. But I am looking for more ways to get involved in the Dallas area. I previously have done a lot of work with the Boys and Girls Club. Also, every single summer in high school, I worked as a tutor and a mentor to primarily Spanish-speaking students. I educated them in English, reading, and math. And so getting back to my roots, essentially, and just giving back to those who are less fortunate is something that I've always grown up with, something as like number one on my list. So using the platform for good, using the type of blessings that I've had come my way, and giving back is something that has been instilled in me since a very young age. So I shout out my parents for that one. So the Make Your Own Legacy's got some more things cooking. I can tell you that.
So that's a great segue, right? Let's talk about the academy.
Yeah, let's talk about the academy, the Make Your Own Legacy Academy.
Yes.
Let's get into this a little bit, man. You've kind of trial by fire this thing. You kind of created your own course by trial and error. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing and where people can find that.
So the Make Your Own Legacy Academy, by definition, it is a first of its kind NIL education solution founded on the basis of helping every smaller market and underserved athlete fully realize their true NIL potential. The Make Your Own Legacy Academy was born in the spring of 2022, like everything in my NIL career. I noticed that as I began to build a platform, as I began to close more and more deals, add more deals to my portfolio, I had Division III athletes, Division II athletes, NAIA, JUCO folks, even some smaller Division I guys reaching out to me via Instagram, Twitter. My website has an inquiry section, so they reached out to me via email. And they all were essentially along the same lines. Can you spit some game? Like, can you share a little bit of knowledge? Can you tell us a little bit, some industry secrets from your time that you've learned? Because we're all coming from the same situation. Our school it's no knock on Amherst. It's no knock on the Division III schools. We just don't have the resources to dedicate to our athletes to help them along their journey with name, image, and likeness, and help them close deals for themselves. So I kind of sat back and I said to myself, okay, you've got the Alabamas and you've got the Amherst of the world. Reality is there's a lot more schools in the position of Amherst out there than there are with Alabama. So what can I do beyond just closing deals for myself to bring more attention to NIL at the Division III level? And that's when it dawned upon me, what if I can single-handedly be involved in the education process of my fellow Division III and smaller market athletes? And so that's where it began. The MYOL Academy launched in August of 2022 with the inaugural class of 21 athletes, obviously an ode to the number I used to wear on the football field. And we've grown to date to now serving as the primary education solution for 60 plus athletes across the country. Obviously we've got some folks graduating and the turnover is a little bit strange, so I'll say 60-ish. Competing at every single level of NCAA competition from NAIA all the way up to Division I, competing in 10-ish varsity sports, I want to say. Within the academy, we educate them on everything NIL. We educate them on the cold email approach, negotiation process, content creation, all under this umbrella that we're probably not going to be playing our sport professionally. So it's important that we begin establishing this professional network and honing this baseline of applicable skills that will really be helpful 5, 10, 15 years in the future. So that's what I've been building these last couple of years. My work in the NIL space with the Make Your Own Legacy Academy has even resulted in a Forbes 30 Under 30 nomination in the sports category. Unfortunately, I didn't get it this year, but I've got 6 more years to get it. And also in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be honored at the People newspaper's 20 Under 40 event, which is happening here in Dallas. And I am one of the 20. So it's just an incredible honor to have such a involvement in these young people's lives. I know what it was like to come into the NIL game with absolutely no knowledge, no guidance, nothing. And so just helping as many athletes as I can, that's really what's been on the forefront of my mind since not only my inception into the space, but also my retirement from the space.
Nice. Is there like a fraternity sorority of like NIL athletes here? I mean, are you like you and Caitlin Clark tell you? I mean, I know that's the bigger schools, but still, is there a kind of a camaraderie amongst NIL players?
I absolutely think so. One of my best friends in the game, Raekwon Smith, the king of NIL. I've gained the moniker of the king of D3 of NIL. He's the king of NIL. He's one of my best friends. And we really wouldn't have any engagement had it not been for NIL. We essentially, ran into each other one time on Instagram. I reached out to him, just kind of wanting to pick his brain on a couple things. And since our relationship has evolved, it's grown. We're even thinking about going into business together, which you didn't hear that from me. We've got ideas, and when you've got these things like the NIL Summit, you really get into contact and you begin to engage with so many people who are looking and are pursuing the exact same things that you're looking for. So being in the room with all of these like-minded individuals, it's just an incredible opportunity. And you never know, down the line, maybe I'm looking for investors, maybe they're looking for investors, going into business with these folks. You really never know. And it's just been a wonderful experience, and I'm extremely grateful for all of it.
That's great. And I have another podcast that's called Athletes, Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. And we talk about athletes transitioning out of sports. Maybe give some advice to some of these athletes looking at NIL. Trent and I talk about this on other podcasts, just the value that you learn. And you obviously you're a living example of, but the entrepreneurship and working with these brands and their marketing. Talk a little bit about that and maybe give some advice to other fellow athletes.
Absolutely. I think that the value of NIL is still unrealized. Obviously, I've got all of this success that you see in front of you right now, but I don't know where I'm going to be in 5, 10, 15 years. Obviously, this fall, I'm going to be at SMU continuing my educational pursuits. Actually, at Amherst, I don't think I ever mentioned it, but I was an English and Native American Studies major. That had absolutely nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with social media, nothing to do with sports business. And so, I think that really speaks for itself. I was supplementing my daily routine with obviously my English and Native American Studies pursuits, but I was also, supplementing it with these sports marketing pursuits, sort of doing these on the side, gaining this practical experience that's extremely useful, not only for resume purposes, but also just for entrepreneurial purposes. I realized sort of early on that where I could take this thing, I have absolutely no idea. And that's the best part about it. I've established a professional network that is just unbelievable. Like I'm speaking to entrepreneurs, CEOs, CFOs, executives almost every single day. I'm getting job opportunities, job offers as a result of my time in the space. And had it not been for me sort of looking in my DMs and kind of being like, this is the in I was looking for, and taking advantage of it, being proactive, being my own advocate, because ain't nobody else was doing it for me. I can tell you that. It really is just an unrealized, I guess, place of success. And I don't know where it's going to take me. And that really is the best part about it. And so if you're nervous about taking that first leap, if you're nervous about posting that first piece of content, the worst thing that can happen is like you get told no by a brand. The world doesn't end. Your eligibility doesn't expire. And if you're worried about what other people think of you, that was probably one of my biggest fears. Is like, oh, like what are my teammates going to think of me? Like, what are my friends from high school going to think of me? Who cares? Like, I quickly realized the only opinion that really matters at the end of the day is the opinion of that person you look and see in the mirror at the end of the night. When you're getting ready for bed, and of course the opinion of your mother as well. But that's gratuitous. But no, it really has been an unbelievable journey for my professional development. I'm going to be going to SMU to pursue a master's of science in sport management. So that kind of speaks for itself. I do think a career in sports is what speaks most to me. I don't know, high level executive, professional organization, marketing dude. I'm not entirely sure. That's why I'm going to SMU. But I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this position had it not been for me taking that leap and engaging in NIL. And extremely grateful for it.
Yeah, when you say let's have Betsy's tips of the we're gonna do Betsy's tip of the week.
I like
yeah, we're gonna bring him in on the tip of the week because I talk about this stuff all the time. But I think you brought up a good point about um, you know, social media is a big part of NIL. I mean, it's always averaging in that 80 to 85% kind of take on deals. So a lot of people like yourself are like, no one's gonna want me. I've only got 2,000 followers. Um, but there's micro influencers all over the place, and it can grow very fast and quickly change. So for folks that are out there, and I've heard this a lot, like I'm really challenging kids to be who they are online, like be as authentic. I don't like fake book because the people that are going out and going, oh, hey, this is my life online, which actually looks nothing like their real life, right? And they kind of dress it up and do all this. And being genuine, authentic is so key to me because as you grow and this world gets so small and people see you and they follow you and they meet you in the grocery store, they want to meet the same Jack Bats online.
Absolutely.
That you are. And all of a sudden, like, oh, hey, I'm not my online persona right now. I'm this guy right now. And so it's like, whoa. And that's an actor's dilemma, right? I mean, that's real because people seeing Mel Gibson and think like, oh man, it's going to be Braveheart and he's going to attack the grocery store. Like he's done a lot of films, man. He's not William Wallace right now. All right. So I think that's a challenge that people are navigating in their minds that, hey, what are people going to think of me? You said that. I've heard that more than a handful of times from athletes. I've heard it a lot.
It is a challenge. And I think, at the end of the day, there is a lot of pressure put on athletes to be that perfect role model. I think back to the Charles Barkley quote where he's like, I'm not a role model. But I don't know. I think that when you think about what the type of performance that you have to put out there on Saturdays and the personality that you're able to show on the field, but also once you get off the field, once you take off that helmet, you are an individual. You are somebody that somebody looks up to, not only on the field, but also off the field. And it is extremely important. I mean, being a role model, being somebody for, I don't know, the next generation to look up to. I know I'm probably not a lot of kids' favorite athletes, but you never know. Maybe some kid tuning in to the Williams game a couple years back was like, who was that 21 streaking across the field? But it is sort of a dilemma that a lot of college athletes fall into. It's like there's just so much pressure put on them to have this perfect persona. Wow, that's alliterative. Say that 10 times fast. But having this perfect persona just out there on social media and keeping this up at all times of the day, it is difficult. And when I go to speaking events and I have a couple things coming up, actually, I'm going to be speaking at my high school. I'm going to be speaking some other things across the way. I mean, even when I appear on podcasts, I just want to be Jack Betts. I just want to be the authentic individual that people see not only on social media, that people not only see previously on the football field, but like if you're walking down the street, I just want to be the dude that you're like, okay, this guy gets it. Like this guy isn't trying to put on a face. He isn't trying to put on a facade. And I completely agree. And it seems easy, much easier said than done for some people, evidently. But I mean, even with professional athletes, we see it a lot as well.
Well, I love it. Let's leave that with as the tip of the day, right? Like being an authentic, genuine self is always in season. And if you're going to be in leadership, you're going to be in a role of um, front in the spotlight, being going forward and representing other people. That is a big responsibility. Responsibility is a 24/7 now venture. And I think that's a little different for even guys like Rob and I mean, we remember when our parents were go to work, and everyone didn't have access to you at 6 p.m. Like we went home and dad could sit and read the paper in his chair, and no one knew what he did. They just knew what he did at work. They didn't know he coached little league. They didn't know what he was doing. And now with social, it's like everybody knows everything, and you're on. So I think that 24/7 authenticity is so important. And that's why you really, for me, you really got to choose to stay in your lane. When you're going to go into social, you're going to go represent whatever brand, represent that brand the best you can. But don't try to be somebody else that you're not to get a deal, to represent a brand. Because the challenge with that is that people are going to come back to you and going, "Oh, which one are you? Are you the spokesperson for Sprayground today, or are you the Insomnia Cookie guy today?" Because those look like two very different online personas. And like, wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa. So I think it's a real challenge for people. So I think when they choose of how they really are, I think there has to be some forward thinking about who you are, what you're about. And I'm not saying, by the way, Jack, that people can't change, that you can't mature and find like, hey, back in the day, man, I was all about this. And I mean, listen, there are people in our era that have gone changing like 500 times. I mean, Madonna, right? Like she's been 19 personalities. Like she has just continued to reinvent herself over and over. But this is who she is in this season. Then this is her season as a mom. Then this is her season as a wife and a producer. And then this is, I mean, she continues to change in these seasons, never with apology for who she was before. This is who I was, and I was being the best I could be at that spot with no apologies. And we have to be prepared to be that person, in my opinion. Betsy, I'd love to hear your opinion.
I'd agree. I think the word responsibility is what resonates the most with me. I am 23 years old, turned 24 in November, and the platform that I have now, it's like, I don't know. I mean, no offense, like, but like some people, my parents especially, they're like, I don't think I would ever imagine like 5,000 people would even tune in to think about what I'm trying to say or like what I'm going to say. And so it is a great responsibility. I mean, for example, when I'm going to speak at my high school, I've been invited to speak at Alumni Weekend, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be my 5-year reunion. Goodness gracious! But I'm pretty sure I'm one of the youngest panelists that they're ever going to have on that alumni panel, and it's speaking to the junior class. And so having that type of responsibility, where I'm a product of this institution, coming back and like showing these kids like this is what I learned during my time here, this is what I went off to do. I think the next generation is what I think about the most, and helping my fellow athletes is what I think about the most. So I don't know, it's definitely a lot to think about now that I'm putting in perspective. Maybe a little bit of an existential crisis is happening internally, so don't worry about that. But no, I
No,
think
hey, no meltdowns on NIL for you, all right, Jack? No meltdowns on NIL for you.
I
Like
promise. I
you
promise.
can do it after. You can have. Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, once we stop the
no cows,
camera.
Jack.
No,
Yeah.
I
Once we
completely
stop the
agree.
camera, it's fine.
And I think evolution is part of life. I mean, when I began my career in NIL, like I mentioned, 2,000 followers, private Instagram account. I probably posted on Instagram or any social media like biannually. But now it's like I'm posting every single week, and people are tuning in to listen to what I have to say. They're interested in my opinions, and their minds are probably going to be changed by what I have to say. And so having this type of platform, having people look up to you as something strange. But I mean, I don't want to say it's
Yeah,
narcissistic.
we got to make sure he pumps up the podcast too, Charlie.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, yeah, but yeah. I think it's a great, like you said. I'll come back to responsibility too. Like now, all of a sudden, there, you do realize people are looking at Jack Betts in a different light,
Yes.
and there is a responsibility to that. And words do matter, right? And how you shape that, how you carry yourself is a big deal. And obviously, with having done over 40 deals, I mean, a lot of great companies have come alongside of Jack and said, "Yeah, hey, we want to work with a guy like this." And they're doing their homework. Trust me, their brands are on the line too. So they're watching out and they want to know someone who is going to be responsible with their brand, because the last thing they need to do is put out some fires in the media over someone who can't seem to get in, the integrity. I don't know about my Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, but I don't think he did anything for Lamborghini last weekend. So, like, as we go look at this thing, this is not a great highlight for someone who's got a significant responsibility. And unfortunately, I think it's missed, Jack. I think it's missed on the younger generation sometimes about, man, you are highly trained in something. And when you're picked for a team, when you're picked for an organization, when you're picked, and you're dealing with this right now. College grads, all your buddies are coming out of school, and they're all going to be the first draft choice for a company. They got 70 applications, and they chose this person. And man, there is going to be a contribution expected. There is going to be a responsibility to be given, and they want to see like, hey, you're going to have to perform at a very high level because we turned down these other 69 people.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 of those made an interview, and 5 of them made 2 interviews, and 3 of them got to meet the CEO to find out exactly who we wanted inside our brand. So it's a big deal to be the first round draft choice here.
Yes.
And I don't know if kids are looking at this like, well, I was pretty good as a barista down at the coffee shop, and now I'm going to work for, QQQ Invesco, and just do the kind of, if I show up on time, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. There's no clock in. This is a now you have been a trained expert, and you're charged with contributing at a high level, and that's the expectation of a first round draft choice. And I don't know if kids get it, Jack.
It's all about value add nowadays, and for some of the brands I've worked with, it is all about some of the major names like Whoop, Body Armor, Allbirds. I was probably one of the smallest dudes on their roster in terms of following, in terms of notoriety. I remember my Whoop call where we brought in all the dudes because I was part of the Whoop 2022 summer cohort, and it's college football players from Georgia State. I'm pretty sure there's some dude from Alabama on there. And it's we're all introducing ourselves. I'm like, hey, Jack Betts, Amherst College, D3. Everybody's looking around like, there's a Division III kid on this call? And so it is you have to understand, regardless of where you're coming from, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. Shout out to my head coach, EJ Mills, for that quote. And so
it's not his, by the way.
It's not his, but I'll
yeah.
shout out him.
Shout out EJ. That's good. Yeah.
But when you think about regardless of your background, regardless of how you're starting out, nobody expected any Division III athletes to capitalize on name, image, and likeness. We were probably the least thought of demographic to begin with. But now, the Hustle Award, for example, I was the only Division III athlete nominated last year. You look at the Hustle Award this year, there's 2 Division III athletes. So I think the impact is being seen. The value add is being understood, that these are more niche celebrities that brands can work with. And in all honesty, our engagements are a whole lot better because we know everybody on campus, because our campuses are that small. We know everybody in our division because the sister schools and the fellow institutions are right down the street. So it is I don't know where I'm going with it, but it is all about value add. It is all about these brands beginning to understand that D3 folks are pretty good too. So
yeah, let me bring this down to another level below D3, high school. Like NIL and football in high school in Texas. We have a number of high school stadiums in Texas, high school, that have $100 million plus football facilities. There is money flowing into the high schools. You're in Dallas. I think you could probably go by 5 within a 50-mile radius of your home that have $100 million complex in high school football.
Yeah.
And then of course you have the Taj Mahal of football. Just go down to Jerry's place, down with the old Cowboys, right? And you have this scene that a lot of money is flowing in this environment. What do you think a high school NIL environment is going to look like in Texas?
Terrifying. I think about the high school I played at, Episcopal School of Dallas. Quick shout out. We've got about 110 kids graduating per grade. Decently successful alumni network. I guess like notable people I played against. I faced off against Jalen Waddle in high school twice. I faced off against two Deion Sanders coached high school teams, Cedar Hill and some other academy. I faced off against Shadur, played against him my sophomore year. And so you think about the type of names that come out of Texas high school football and how much money is flowing out of these institutions. And I am sort of worried that it's going to be like a doomsday scenario that if NIL at the high school level is approved in Texas, that
Let's just say when, Jack, because it's not a matter of if now. It's a when.
When it is approved, it's just going to be like a conglomeration of all the best athletes at like the Duncanvilles, at the North Shores, at the Prospers. I'm hoping that my folks at ESD can sort of compete, but it's just going to be like literally signing bonuses. You think like the car was crazy? I can't even imagine what some of these high school athletes are going to be paid. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping that the landscape isn't too terribly changed. I mean, I live right down the street from Highland Park, and there's a lot of money flowing out of there. Jerry's grandson went there, so that should tell you all you need to know about that. But yeah, it's going to get dangerous and it's going to get freaky. And I'm already having Texas high school parents reaching out to me for NIL guidance, and I'm like, I can't touch it. It's not legal. I can't touch it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Rob, let's wrap it here, man. What a great show with Betsy, man.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun, spending some time. Great to get to know you better, Jack. Just really appreciate your time and spending with us, our audience at NIL for you. Always trying to educate people at that top level. So, Rob, just always thankful to you and Alumni Direct for hosting and leading. So, close us out here, buddy.
Yeah, Jack, again, thank you so much for the time. Very impressive. And I think you're going to have a lot of success in this world and love to work with you on this journey that you're on. But thanks, everybody. NIL for you, as each week we come on and we give lots of good stories and having great athletes and other people on like Jack and just telling the story. And Trent, thanks as always. And that wraps up another episode of NIL for you.
Unlock the full potential with your business with Leadershipity. Our proven strategies have fueled growth for countless organizations. Ready to elevate your leadership and scale your success? Book your free 15-minute consultation now. Click the link in the show notes below and let's make your business soar.